Good evening, everybody. It is another Wednesday night, another day to talk college football. I mean, is there ever really a bad day to talk college football?
No. I don't.
It's always a good day to talk college football. You've got myself, Sonia, Mom23RN, also Sonia KG on Blue Sky, wherever you want to find me, that's it. You've got Cleveland Kate to my other side. Y'all, one day I'm going to get it right. I'm going to point in the right direction.
You are. It looks like you are to me, but I also see words backwards. And then people are like, no, it's fine on my screen. So.
Yes, Kate is a kitty tonight, and I love that.
Caddy.
Oh, look, we've got Kristen. Gosh, we've got Kristen.
Hey, Kristen. Hey, Big Red.
Red. We've got everybody. Going to be another great night.
If you are watching on the Twitter, you're going to do it?
Yeah, that's fine. If y'all are watching over on the Twitters, on the Blue Skies, on the Facebooks or the X's, whatever, head over to the YouTube, the YT, and then you can interact and chat with us. The YT, there you go. See, look at that. The YouTube, YT. Come on over. You can interact with us, goofballs, and we can answer your questions. We've got the best chat out there, and they have the best questions and comments, and we'll share them on screen. It's great. We are missing Michelle this evening. She has to work.
Boo work.
That's just awful. Like, take college football takes priority over work, wouldn't you say?
Wow. I don't know. We girls all got work and we got bills to pay, so.
That is true.
That's why there's three of us, right? Two of us can cover, we can cover it. We can pick up the slack. We can hold that ship together until we can all be together again.
Oh, and then Big Red gets us started. Is Clemson going to lose to FSU this week? That is going to be a fun game. At the beginning of the year, we would have thought that this would have been for some big stakes. Now it's just to save each team from embarrassment, I think.
Yep, I think so as well.
That's right. Get those coins, Michelle. Get them. Get that money. But Michelle is just such a great person. Love having her here. So we miss you, Michelle. We do. And the you. Anyways, so, Big Red Clemson, I think, is going to lose to FSU this week. Why? Because I think it's going to be a bigger game for Clemson than it is for Florida State. And so I think Florida State is going to do what they have done in the past and surprised us and win this one. And Big Red is just glad that South Carolina has bye. He's a big South Carolina fan, if you haven't guessed already, chat. So there's that. So tonight, I figure we could get into a couple of things. The official college football rankings are out, so we'll talk about those a little bit. And then one thing that we haven't done much this season, which kind of shame on us, is we haven't really talked about the smaller conferences like we did last season, and I really enjoyed that. So glad to do that tonight. Tonight we're going to visit the Mountain West Conference. We've talked about them in the past, but again,
they've had a lot of changes. That whole
what have they done? Have they realigned?
Yeah. There's 12 teams in there now.
That's a lot.
A lot of these conferences have way too many teams.
Agree. I think they need to be a little bit smaller, just a smidge. And I don't know how much 10. The playoff is affecting.
I like 10 or 12, not just because of the Big Ten, but it's just a nice manageable number. You can play everybody at 10. You should play everyone in your division once in a season. When you get the Big Ten now is out of control. You only get to play half of them. So, for example, Big Ten, I don't believe Ohio State has Indiana on their schedule this year. So they will most likely, if things continue the way they are, they'll meet in the Big Ten championship. But back when there were only 10 teams, you could play everybody in a season.
Agree. Is BYU, see, Big Red just coming with a question. Is BYU Texas up for a possible? Of course. I think so. Because BYU is pretty high in the rankings. Can't remember what they are.
Well, so BYU is would have to go look and see. They're sitting at 8, Texas Tech's at 9. So what the problem with a game like that is the loser top 12. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. We've got a couple of those games on the schedule this week where I think the losers, I say that, and then I need to understand how, no offense to our friends Michelle or Lisa, how Miami is still in the top 25. With all of their losses, they only dropped down to 18. Now that puts them out of the top 12 for the playoff, but they're still in the top 25 with all those. I'm like, I don't know.
But they still have a chance then.
They do.
Quite honest.
If they win out. Their schedule. I think the problem is I don't know that they play anybody that's ranked the rest of the year. That's where any losses, there's not a lot of time left for people to work their way back up into the top 12. Mm-hmm. And you've got to play really good teams if you want to move back up. If you want to go from 18 all the way back up into 12, you need to beat somebody that's ranked, and they don't have anybody ranked on their schedule through the rest of the year.
Yeah, there you go. But let's get into the Mountain West a little bit. Like I said, I want to start off with a small conference that we haven't talked about yet. And like I said, apologize to the smaller conferences this season. But so the Mountain West, let's get into them. Tell me.
We've got San Diego State at the top at 7-1.
Okay.
4-0 in conference. Boise State, Fresno State, and Hawaii and New Mexico are all in that next spot at 6-3. But they have Boise State sits at the top because they're 4-1 in conference, while Fresno, Hawaii, and New Mexico are all 3-2. You've got UNLV, who is 2-2 in conference and 6-2 overall. So those are really the 6 teams at the top of the 12. Mm-hmm. And then there's like this gap. And then you get to, Utah State at 4-4, San Jose State at 3-5, Wyoming's 4-5, Colorado State is 2-6, Air Force is 2-6, and Nevada is a sad 1-7. But what I like about this conference is from the games that I've watched, I haven't watched a lot, but from the games that I've watched, it's sort of an any given Sunday conference. Anybody can win at any time.
Agree. And while it might not be powerhouses, there have been some good players that come from the Mountain West and have come from these teams. And like Kate always says, these are the teams where you get your backups from, if you will, or those ones that are going to be, pretty solid guys that you haven't heard of, but they're pretty solid. And, your second and third stringers can come from there too. But there have been some great guys that come out of those conferences.
Well, so last year, one of our favorites for the Heisman, who ended up not winning, Ashton Jeanty, came from Boise State. Where's my list? Because I have a list.
Kate either has a list or a spreadsheet.
I have a list. Josh Allen came from Wyoming. And Jordan Love, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Josh Allen from the Bills. Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers, went to Utah State. Those are pretty big names. Devontae Adams went to Fresno State. Like, those are, in my mind, rock stars in the NFL that came from the Mountain West. So there are a lot of really good players in those divisions. And what's nice is a lot of the time they get taken a little later in the draft and they get, I think, developed better. They have a little more time to get where they need to get. I mean, not at the quarterback position, but I think if you look at Alexander Madison, who's the running back for the Vikings, was at Boise State as well. So they've produced quite a few players for the NFL that have come out of those schools. Bobby Wagner, I think, went to Utah State. Joel Bitonio, who is one of my favorite offensive linemen at left guard for the Browns, went to Nevada. So they're getting a lot of representation in the NFL, and it's fun to watch those games because you can see players. We watched a lot of Boise State last year. We watched a lot of Austin Jeanty, and we get down to Heisman time, and they announce the people, and I can't tell you how many people were like, "Who is this Ashton Jeanty guy?" And I'm like, "Do you not watch their games? Like, we have been watching them all right." And there are so many people who completely ignore these games, and so if you happen to be flipping channels, it's hard to find them because the big programs take up all the big space. At least on my TV during the week. It's one of the things Michelle loves to do is she said those are usually those later in the day games, 8, 9 o'clock at night here. If you're on the Eastern time zone and you're looking through, you can find those Mountain West games that are on in that later time slot and catch some, not just really good football, but some players that could end up on your favorite NFL team's roster as depth. And they end up playing when somebody gets hurt, and then they just keep the job.
Agree. And then Big Red actually gives a good point, brings up a good point. The issue with the Air Force is that they finish their contract before going pro if they're so fortunate. And so, yeah, a lot of the academies are like that, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to finish up their contract. But it's good. It's always very, very good.
Yeah,
it is hard to watch West Coast games when you're on East Coast time, but if you're just up and you love the sport like Michelle does, she just does, and she watches and she studies, and it's a beautiful thing, and I love it.
Yeah.
Kristen asks another good question too. What does she say? How do these players stand out while playing smaller schools? Is there a question of how good they really are if they aren't playing the higher ranked teams? Kristen brings it every week. I tell you what. So I'll answer, and Kate, please jump in. So teams send out their scouts, and their scouts are trained, obviously, and they're the ones who sit on the East Coast and watch these West Coast games, and they analyze and they go through painstaking amount of film and just watching. And then, they might get a couple guys and they might say, hey, go out to Colorado State versus UNLV. We like the guy that's playing. We want to watch him. So teams go out. If you're good enough, regardless of where you play, you could play Power 5, you could play, in the MEAC, you can play, Pac-12 or whatever. You can play wherever. If you have talent, you will be found. You will be found regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the players from the smaller schools that get to the NFL actually do better, because you can argue that Ashton Jinty's yardage as a running back was so high because he didn't face the top caliber defenses. But the NFL scouts that went and watched him saw his fundamentals, saw his ability to break tackles, saw his speed and the way he accelerates after a catch or after he breaks tackles. So it's easy for us to pretend we're scouts. I'm a fantasy football scout. I'm looking at stats and all that kind of stuff. Actual NFL scouts, like Sonia said, they're going to the games. They're requesting film. So much of this stuff now, in the 80s and 90s, you had to physically go to these schools to watch a game. Now you type an email and they are happy to send you game film because you're a scout scouting their players. And the more of their players that get drafted into the NFL, the easier it is for them to recruit. They're like, Wyoming, we produced Josh Allen, come play here. Fresno State, Utah State, they're naming off the guys that they have in the NFL. So you don't even have to go there to watch the game in person. You can start with film and they will email that to you. And they're looking at fundamentals. They're looking at your footwork, your hand, your arm, your head, just all of those intangibles that we aren't sure what to look for. The scouts know. And that's how they find the guys at the smaller schools. But I would say, I have not run these numbers yet, but I bet you if I go back 20 years, we can see an increase in the number of guys at these smaller schools that are getting drafted, because I think technology has allowed us to share their talent in footage with scouts, where in the 80s you had to travel and go to these games, and you're that old Clint Eastwood guy sitting in the bleachers watching the game. That was the only way they did it. Now they watch film, they may go to your game, but what they'll do next is put you on the list and they'll go to your pro day. And they'll go to the Senior Bowl and they'll talk to the coaches about how you behave at the Senior Bowl in the locker room. Are you coachable? Are these NFL guys that are working with you, are they giving you advice, and are you listening? That's a huge part of the Senior Bowl. Speaking of which, I believe Lisa's going to the Senior Bowl again this year.
I think Lisa's
They
going to
just
go.
opened up the window to request credentials, so I know she got that done this week. So that'll be awesome. The Reese's Senior Bowl.
And
but that's a great
hopefully
question.
if my schedule works out that way, I'll try and get down there too.
That would be awesome. I was hoping you'd come up for the combine at some point.
No, I'm going to try and come up this year. I took the time off, so she'll be able to come to the combine, which I'm excited about. And if that happens, stay tuned because Kate and I might be doing a thing. Just saying. Now, Big Red actually has another good point. Teams like South Carolina State, which is an HBCU, have to play these bigger schools to be recognized. They don't expect to necessarily win, but to look good on the larger team's dime. And I will agree. Again, though, I'll also say it's a little bit of that. They do have to play some of the bigger teams, but also this kind of speaks to getting kids from and getting staff members from these smaller HBCUs, things like that, because they still have that network. And it's probably like that everywhere you go, like Kate was just saying, Wyoming can say, hey, we drafted Josh Allen. South Carolina State can say, hey, or Savannah State, let's say, hey, Shannon Sharp, Hall of Famer, played for us. Jackson State, things like that. And so I think also having some of the former NFL players, like you're seeing this more often. Mike Vick, for instance, he's at Norfolk State. And I think having those ties, obviously, to the NFL, regardless of how you feel about Mike Vick, there is a tie to the NFL there. And they can still, pull kids, and that's still a big pull. So you're right. They do have to play those bigger schools so that they can get recognized. But also it's people who are speaking their names in these places too, I say.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yep. All right. Should we talk a little Heisman, or you want to jump right to the rankings so we can get through those?
Let's get through the rankings.
All righty. No big surprises as far as I was concerned. We've been looking at the coaches polls, the AP poll for all of the weeks of the year, but this is the first week that we get the official CFPR college football playoff something rankings.
Yes.
No surprise. Ohio State at number 1, Indiana at number 2, Texas A&M at number 3. I think one of the things that surprises me, and this is part of this is the hype among teams like Alabama and Georgia and the strength of schedule. BYU is down at 7, and they are still undefeated. They are 8-0. And Alabama with their loss, they're 7-1. Georgia's 7-1. Ole Miss is 8-1. They all sit ahead of BYU, which is a little frustrating. At the same time, what is eventually going to happen is, so this week, I think BYU plays Texas Tech, right? Is that who we had on the calendar? So not only is that number 8 versus number 9, that is 2 schools in the Big 12 with Utah at 7-2 right behind them. They're in the top 2 positions in the Big 12. They both could make the top 12. If one of them loses, I don't know that they'll drop out of the 12. But they may end up meeting each other again in a few weeks for the Big 12 championship. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I highly advise it if you get BYU Texas Tech. For me, it's the game of the week on this week's schedule. It has the biggest impact as far as rank versus rank, because it's not just those rankings in the playoffs. It's how that conference is going to end up, who we could see in the Big 12 championship, and what effect that is going to have as well, because the conference champions will get a bye. So Ohio State will most likely have to play Indiana, but both teams will still make the top 12. They will both be in the playoff. It's just that the Big 10 champion will get a bye. So it'll be the Big 10 champion, the SEC champion, which right now Texas A&M is sitting up on top with Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss right below. You'll have Big 10, SEC, Big 12, and then it really depends on if it's the probably the ACC champion. The problem right now is the ACC doesn't have a team in the top 12.
No.
You've got Notre Dame up there, but because Notre Dame is an independent, they cannot have a bye. So I don't know. Let's say Virginia wins the ACC or Louisville. Let's go Louisville. Louisville wins the ACC championship. I have to go back and look at the rules. I don't know if that's enough, if they would actually move up in the rankings and people would vote differently, or if they would stay at like 14 and yet still make the playoff because they're the champion of that division. So I have to go do a little homework on that. It would just be easier if one of them would just get into the top 12 and then I don't have to do math. But
agree. It's very interesting. Could Indiana be on upset alert if they catch the right team at the end of the season? Probably not. And I'm gonna tell you why. Let's see. Hang on.
Well, you say what I said to Michelle last week.
What?
I don't know how Indiana's not ranked first. I think they're a better team than Ohio State. They are a better overall team. They do not have those single stars where if he has a bad day, they're done. Yeah. I don't think there is anybody on their schedule that is that they're worried about. And I don't know that Ohio State would beat them in the Big Ten championship. I just don't.
They are dominant. And like looking at the team, like
they're
the
so balanced. And their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. I just like to say Fernando Mendoza. Their quarterback is rock solid. And there's, like I said, there's not like this one flashy guy that they're putting all their eggs in that basket. They are, in my opinion, the best overall well-balanced team in college football right now. And that's painful for me because if I manage to beat Michigan this year, which again, crapshoot, I got to play Indiana in the playoff, and I don't know that Ohio State can beat them. Maybe it's a question of can one of these teams beat the other one twice? Because at some point, that's what it's going to be. They're going to see each other in the championship for the Big Ten, and then because of the way the seeding is, at some point they will face each other in the playoffs. And I feel like this is one of those where either team could win anytime. I think it will be very difficult for one of those teams to beat the other one twice.
So I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. They have Penn State, Wisconsin, Penn State in Happy Valley, Wisconsin, and Purdue at Purdue.
Yeah.
They're going to win all these games.
They're going to win.
I think the closest one that might come to an upset is Penn State. Because they're at Happy Valley.
And, we demolished Penn State, but that was right after James Franco leaving, and they're still trying to figure out what they're doing. And, these young men still have pride. They still play because they love the game. And I could absolutely see the coaches getting them psyched up for that game of like, listen, this is your opportunity to make a splash. You want NFL scouts to notice you? You need to beat Indiana. You need to shock the world and beat them. But that's the only team on their schedule that might, unless they're just going to roll over and die, which is something that you that's a risk when you lose your head coach in the middle of the year. Half the players go ringing the bell at the portal because they're like, I'm out of here. And then the rest of them might like the interim head coach. They want to play for him. They like the position they're in. They feel like they're putting a good film. But there's still pride. There is
very much so pride. So that's why I'm like, Penn State could be that one team. But Wisconsin and Indiana, or Wisconsin and Purdue, I don't see them beating.
When Kristen's question, what will it take for Indiana to get the respect with the higher ranking? My feeling is, and this could just be me because I have redheaded stepchild syndrome. My feeling is if they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, it won't be, oh my God, Indiana's for real. It'll be, wow, the Buckeyes weren't as good as we thought they were. Like, I just don't feel like, unless they win it all, unless they take out a Georgia or an Alabama or a big SEC team in the playoffs, I think that's what's going to have to happen for people to believe that this team is real.
Agreed. And unfortunately, that's the measuring stick of the Big Ten, is beating the Alabama is beating anybody in the SEC, and
just don't
Ohio
make me
State
play
has
Clemson or
done that.
LSU because I can't beat either one of them. But neither of them are going to be a problem this year.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Penn
just to
State
run
is
through. So we did Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, BYU at 7, Texas Tech at 8, Oregon at 9, Notre Dame at 10, and then somehow Texas at 11 and Oklahoma at 12. If the playoffs started tomorrow, those would be your 12 teams.
wild.
But I think Utah has a chance. Utah, Virginia, and Louisville, I think all have a chance. I don't know that Vanderbilt can get up there. I don't know that I can stomach one more SEC team in the top 12.
No.
And I can't. I don't think I can. And they have 2 losses, and Utah's got 2. I mean, so Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma all have 2 losses, and yet they would be in the playoffs right now over Virginia with 1 loss or Georgia Tech. They're both 8-1 in the ACC. The conference is for real. I don't know why people give them no credit either. So I think we need another couple weeks before we really can see if there's anybody who's got a chance to move on up.
Agree. And wait, we talked about Oregon and Iowa. That actually could be a pretty decent game too. So yeah, there's movement that could happen in these rankings. I think this weekend is going to be pretty big. To see what's going to happen.
BYU at Texas Tech at noon, Indiana at Penn State at noon. I don't know that Georgia has anything to worry about against Mississippi State. I know the Buckeyes aren't worried about Purdue. Ole Miss has this. Texas A&M, who's at number 3 right now, faces Missouri at 19. Missouri has a very good team, but I don't know that they can. I wouldn't give them a real big chance of beating A&M because I just like what A&M has done this year. Syracuse is going to give Miami all the problems they can give them. Miami is doing itself more damage than anybody else is. Like they can't get out of their own way.
They're doing their free fall.
Yeah. Iowa is going to play hard against Oregon. That would be on my upset alert board, that one, and Auburn against Vanderbilt. I think those are both games where the unranked schools, Auburn and Iowa, are going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to bring their A game. They're going to do what they do. And this is that point in the season where some of the really good teams start to just look all the way at the playoff picture. And they're not taking care of business. This week and next week, to me, weeks like 9, 10, 11 are the most dangerous weeks because that's when you find out if these coaches know how to prepare these players and keep them laser focused on the opponent they have right now. You'll see a couple of these games that'll look really close in the first half. And then in the second half, it'll be like, crap, we could lose this. We need to get our stuff together and start playing, right? And then you'll see these big differences in the second half. But, bigger at Cal Louisville, it could happen. That's what this week is about for me is these teams that are ranked. Give it up, girl. You need some cat ears. That's why I put mine on because I got this one right here. I look like alfalfa. You have a lot of ranked teams playing unranked teams, and this is where they risk that slip and slide. Could Vanderbilt get into the playoffs? I mean, they're at 15 right now, but if they keep winning, they're 7-2. But if they keep winning, they could move ahead of Louisville and Virginia. They could get ahead of Utah. I don't know. I think other teams have to lose. So we're at that point in the year for even Texas and Oklahoma, both with 2 losses, are getting ranked at the very edge of the bubble. Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma. I think from Notre Dame down, if you lose, you're out and you're done. You don't have enough time or strength of schedule to get back.
Agree.
You just have to keep winning. And that's what Michelle has been saying all season is just win, baby. All you can do is keep winning and hope that something falls back to you, that the people up ahead of you that already have 1 or 2 losses get another loss and that you're just playing your games. So BYU may be perfectly happy undefeated sitting where they are. They may find if they win their conference, they'll get a bye. They may prefer that seeding of being down there. But I think it's disrespectful to put them beneath. I think the Alabama and Georgia ranking is politics. and that's the name, and people love them, and I don't love them, but I think that's a lot of why they're above a team like BYU is just because of who they are.
Agree. It's because they're Alabama. It's because they're Georgia. My God, my hair is a mess. LSU is kind of like Penn State playing with house money against top teams, and they've got Alabama this weekend. So that's going to be a big one in a way. It does go to show how focused that Alabama is. They are playing in Tuscaloosa, so that's a thing. But we'll see. And LSU's coming off a bye.
Well, and they'll have had 2 weeks since firing their head coach for Frank Wilson, who's taken over as interim, to kind of work through their issues, talk to them, get them mentally prepared. This is a game for them like the one is for Penn State against Indiana. They want to prove to people that they're not dead, that he's gone, but we are still here. We have talent. We can still win a game. And so Alabama better pay attention, because this is sort of, I guess, what we'd call a trap game for a couple of these guys. Yeah, Big Red said it. I completely agree. LSU is kind of like Penn State in this. There's quite a few teams playing with new, interim head coaches right now. And those young men are just trying to say, hey, I can still play.
Yeah.
And for me, if I'm an NFL scout, I am watching these players at Penn State and at LSU. Yeah. And I'm looking at how they react to this adversity, because you're going to face a lot of adversity in the NFL. You're going to lose coaches. Your teammates are going to get traded from the Jets to the Indianapolis Colts. Your quarterback's going to get hurt and miss 6 weeks with turf toe. Like, things are going to happen. How do you bounce back? Do you still play? Do you still focus? Do you still care about your job? And your job is not to go to college. Your job is to play football. We all know that. Y'all don't want to say it. We know it. And so the college scouts pay attention to all of this stuff. When I go to the combine, they do drills by position. And years ago, one of the scouts, I said, what are you looking for when they're doing the passing drills or when they're bench pressing or whatever? He says, I'm looking to see how this guy relates to the other people in his grouping. Is he competitive, or is he a teammate? Is he cheering on? You see a lot of that with the tight ends group. Every year that I have gone with the tight ends group, they are all cheering on whoever's lifting or jumping or whatever. They're high-fiving, they're cheering for him. He goes, those are the kind of qualities you're looking for, is what kind of locker room guy is he going to be? You can talk to his teammates, you can talk to his coaches. They're all going to say the nice things. But watching how they behave in that kind of a competitive environment means something. Because even if you get drafted, you're now competing with the other tight ends and wide receivers and defensive ends because you want to be a starter. You are competing for snaps and reps. And so they want to see what kind of a teammate you are. And they're going to look at these games to see how you react to the adversity, how you take to a new coach. Are you adaptable, and are you able? Because when you leave college, you're going to go get a new coach. Are you adaptable to that coach's style? We talked earlier about the Senior Bowl. The players love the opportunity to work with an NFL coach, and that's something the scouts that go to the Senior Bowl watch, is to say, hey, if the coaches are giving you it, are you coachable? Do you understand what an NFL coach is telling you to do? And those are big things. So they still have a lot to play for, even if they don't have a chance at the final set of, the CFP playoffs. They still have their future job prospects to show that they're ready to go to the big show.
Agree times a bajillion. And this is where that's made.
Yep.
Just saying. Heisman talk. We haven't talked about the small conferences, and we haven't really talked Heisman. And I want to say Heisman is a little bit more up in the air this year. Last year, I mean, it was obvious that it was going to go to Travis Hunter, right? Like, it had to.
I think we knew week one who we were watching last year, and we were watching Ashton Jeanty. Like, we knew. I don't feel like, aside from all the hype about Arch Manning, I don't know that there was anyone else I was really watching this year. And I said last week to Michelle, should we talk about Heisman hopefuls? And she's like, there's too many. And I'm like, you're right. There's nobody that I'm really looking at like, he's got a chance at this. It's starting to solidify. I found a couple articles. I would definitely agree. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback at Indiana, His numbers are insane. He's hitting 73%. He's averaging 9.5 yards per pass attempt. My favorite statistic for any quarterback is touchdowns versus interceptions. 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And the man can run. He has carried the ball 50 times for an average of 4.5 yards per carry, and he's got 4 rushing touchdowns. I just think we're not all talking about him, and he's not a household name because it's Indiana, and people still don't believe. We just talked about Indiana, right? Until they beat Ohio State or until they beat an SEC team, people are not going to give him the credit that he's due. And I don't know from a calendar perspective if there's enough time for that when the Heisman voting happens for Indiana to get that signature win. But I also don't know that it's a very strong pool this year. They're throwing Justin Sayin in there, and I love my quarterback. I have not loved my quarterback at Ohio State for a very long time. I still don't know why Justin's parents didn't name him why Julian's parents didn't name him Justin, because I always call him Justin because I'm just saying, because it's genius marketing and he's illegally changed his name. I think he's really good. I just think he's a sophomore. I think his job is a lot easier because he's on a very good team. When you're throwing to Jeremiah Smith, I could probably do really well. And I think maybe he's young. He's got another year. So they don't really like to give it to sophomores. And then they're throwing Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, in the mix. And I swear it's just because he's from Alabama. Because I haven't liked an Alabama quarterback, I don't think, ever. I don't know that they do well in the draft or, in the NFL. But he's the third quarterback that I hear a lot about.
They do not. I know it's going to go to a quarterback this year. I really do. At first, mine was the Oklahoma quarterback because I think he was just dynamic. I thought he was really great. But you know who else could be considered? Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, the running back. I think he could be considered. Is he going to be there? Probably not. But I think he could be considered. He's done overall pretty well. Not out of the water, but he's still got some decent stats. I think he could work.
Yeah, I liked Mateer, but that injury hurt his numbers.
Yeah.
I had to go look up his name because when I first started looking at him from Oklahoma, I kept getting his name confused with that kid that got hurt in the movie, Remember the Titans?
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? Patir or whatever his name was, Brazier, I don't know what his name was, but that's what kept, every time I heard Mateer, I went to that little girl going, "You're getting beat like you stole something." I was having to Remember the Titans flashback. I love that movie.
It's such a good movie.
I hate Michigan, but I love Jeremiah Love. I love Love. I think he should go to Green Bay so Love can throw to Love and Love can hand off to Love and all you need is love and Green Bay can have all the love. But I think you're right. I think he might get called to go, but I think it's going to go to a quarterback. I don't know if Marcel Reed of A&M will get enough credit, and he's another one where I don't know if the voting period will last long enough into the playoffs for him to get the credit he deserves for the season he is having. But I have to throw out the last quarterback on my list. I'm probably stealing all your names, Sonia. I think it's the best quarterback name in the in this year's class, Gunnar Stockton from Georgia. I was about to say
my Georgia
boy. He's a gunner. I just love that. Best quarterback name in this year's class.
Agree. Best name. I think he would be a good choice as well. Mateer was my first one, but yeah, Gunnar Stockton. Yeah. I think he's done some good things this year as well. Yeah, he had only 2 INTs. Good gravy.
Yeah, we got a lot of Jeremiahs because Jeremiah Smith's going to come out of Ohio State, and yet another wide receiver that I think is destined for big things. Bear Bachmeier is the quarterback at BYU. His numbers are all right, but he's undefeated. He's beat some very good schools this year, and he's going to lead BYU into the playoffs. So we'll see. There's a lot of names, but it's like, it's not like prior years where we've had just those clear-cut guys. Like you had Mayfield and Darnold. You had Mariota and Winston. Like you've always had those 2 quarterbacks where everybody knew their name and everybody was watching them play. and it's a much more level playing field this year.
Agree.
So,
and I like that. I like that a lot. I like that it's not like a dead ringer, like, oh, it's going to be him. Like last year, it was like, oh, we knew it was going to be Travis for the most part. But
right, but it makes it more difficult. On Tuesdays when we do our draft shows of which quarterbacks are going where, it's like they're very good, but it's not the strength of quarterback class that we've seen in the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season finishes out, who shows up in that college football playoff. That may not have an effect on the Heisman voting, but I believe the playoff system will have an effect on the draft because the guys who can win, love Sam Darnold, can't win a playoff game. Love Lamar Jackson, can't win a playoff game. Love Josh Allen, can't beat Kansas City unless it's the regular season. Like, you don't have to win the Heisman to get drafted number 1 overall. You need to get your team deep into these playoffs and show them that you can win these games when the pressure's on, because that's what's going to happen if you end up in the NFL.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Well, guys, had another great show talking some more college.
We always say we never know what we're going to talk about, and we still go for 45 minutes.
That's the beauty of it, and I love it because we don't.
Great participation from our crowd today. Thank you all so much. Great questions.
Wonderful questions. We have to do a viewers only, or just a viewers
choice only question. But in fairness, if we're going to do that, then they have to send us the questions ahead of time on Twitter or somewhere or Blue Sky so that we know what they're going to be ahead of time.
Yeah, agree.
At least some of them.
Exactly.
If you have any favorite teams you'd like us to look at and talk about, if you have any, especially if it's a smaller conference, we've still got a few weeks left to talk about some schools and stuff as we get through the season. So if you have anybody in particular, I'm not talking about South Carolina. Sorry, Big Red. But we'll do a viewer's choice week, and you can pick a conference or a team, and we'll do our research on them and let you know what our thoughts are. Maybe pick some players that we think you should be paying attention to on draft day.
Yeah.
Almost that season. I know it feels early because we haven't even gotten to Thanksgiving yet, but that's all that's on my head at this time of year is who am I going to draft?
Yep, exactly. That's what we're doing now with college is looking at who could go.
Well, and that's what happens when your NFL team has 2 wins through 9 weeks. So when's that draft? I know it's not your problem. You're looking for Super Bowl tickets. I'm looking to go to Pittsburgh for the draft.
Agree. So. And, it's still a weird feeling for me, too. I'm not even going to lie, but it's okay. Good. Never too early
to the Vikings, and you're all like, wait, we don't do this anymore. What happened?
I'm like, wait, I thought we stopped losing. No
it comes in flashbacks, PTSD.
Literally. All right, friends. Well, we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat place. Have a good weekend. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
I love your bat ears, your cat ears.